Hi everybody, happy Try-Day Friday. So this Try-Day Friday, we will be making the TBA ISD recipe of the week, applesauce. So wash your hands, wash your apples, and let's get started. So for this recipe of the week, you will need apples, of course, lemon juice, which you can either get by squeezing a fresh lemon or by squeezing some pre-squeezed juice out of a container, and some cinnamon. So only 3 ingredients, very easy. So something I'm doing a little different today is I'm actually making a half recipe. So our recipe calls for 8 apples, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 4 teaspoons of lemon juice. So let's think for a second. We have to divide each of these ingredients by half. So what is half of 8? It's 4. What would be half of 1 teaspoon? A half teaspoon. What would be half of 4 teaspoons? 2 teaspoons. Awesome. So that's one way that we use math while we're cooking. We can use math to either increase a recipe by doubling it or shrink a recipe by halving it. Alright, so to get us started, we need to cut up our apples. Now you can do this either by taking an apple slicer and just slicing your apples and then slicing the slices, or you can use a knife to cut up the whole apple. So again, make a start with your hand, fit the grip between your thumb and your index finger, wrap your last 3 fingers around it, pinch the top with your thumb and index finger so it doesn't get loosey-goosey, and we'll start cutting our apple. And make sure we're not keeping our fingers out where the knife can get them, instead making a bear claw grip to hold our apples steady in place. So first thing I do when I cut up a whole apple is I find the stem and I get as close to it as I can. I don't want to get the core, and I just cut right through, creating a flat edge for myself. And then I work my way around the apple, making sure not to cut too close to the core. And I just cut 4 pieces off, and then I separate the core and set that aside for my compost so I can give it to my worm friends. And then with the remaining pieces, I line them up. And this is what I like to do. You don't have to do that. In fact, that might be a little bit too much. I line up as many as I feel comfortable lining up, and then I just go through and I just slice them all up at the same time to save me some time. I rotate them, I go the opposite way. So as you can see with my apple pieces, they're not super small. The cooking will sort of break them down, make them mushier, so you don't have to spend a whole lot of time just chopping and chopping and chopping and chopping. You can get them into relatively small pieces and then let the heat of the pan do the rest. Alright, great. So we have our apples chopped up and in the pot. Remember, I'm doing a half recipe, so there's only 4 apples in here. Now let's add our other ingredients. So the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, but we have already figured out that if we are going to divide that in half, half of 1 teaspoon is half a teaspoon. So we will just add a half teaspoon of cinnamon. There we go. And sprinkle that on it. Smells good. Next up, the recipe calls for 4 teaspoons of lemon juice. But remember, we're dividing it in half, so we're going to add, what is half of 4? 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. So we're going to add 1. We're going to add 2. Next up, the cooking process says that we should add 1 cup of water. But again, since we are halving this recipe, we need to add 1/2 a cup of water. So I've done just that. I've measured out half a cup. I'm gonna put that on in. So that's it. Now it's time for us to cover the pot, put on the stove over low-medium heat, and let it cook until the apples are tender, which will be about 20 to 30 minutes, stirring occasionally. All right, we are about 5 minutes in with the apples cooking. Let's take a look at them. Oh, look at that. It said stir frequently. So I'll give them a stir. So you can see the water here is really working pretty efficiently at breaking these apples down. They're starting to get soft and mushy, which is exactly what we want for applesauce. All right, here we are. Timer has gone off. I'm ready to go to the next step. Oh, they're looking good. I'm going to turn off the heat. I'm going to take my spoon. I'm going to start mushing it all together, just like the instructions say. Now, the instructions say you could use a potato masher, you could use a fork, but I'm finding that my apples are so soft, I can just get them with my spatula here, and that's working pretty well. That is looking really good. So as you can see, I left some, I didn't mush it completely. That's my preference. I like to have some texture in there. If you want yours more smooth, keep on mushing, or put it in a blender, let it cool a bit, and then you can actually blend it to get a really smooth texture. All right, here we are. I have my bowl, I have my applesauce. I'm ready to give our Try-Day Friday a try. I'm gonna give this one double thumbs up. So I decided to use a Fuji variety of apple. It's a very sweet variety of apple. And so it lent a lot of great flavor to this applesauce. And as you noticed, the ingredients we added were apples, lemon juice, and cinnamon. There's no extra sugar in there. And this tastes incredibly sweet. It's amazing how much the cooking process as well as the cinnamon in there just brought out all these really delicious natural sugars that are already found in the apple. So this is a really healthy recipe to make. It's incredibly delicious, very good for you. I hope you give it a try and you like it. I hope you enjoyed this Try-Day Friday. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.